Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start the Finance Committee meeting of the Dutchess County LDC. Sarah, if you take the roll call, please.
Yes. Jamie Picone.
Here.
Don Sagliano. Kathy Bauer.
Here. First on the agenda, I'd like to review the minutes from the March meeting. Is there any corrections? Hearing none. If someone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes, please.
Like to make that motion to approve the minutes of the LDC.
And I will second that motion.
Jamie Picone.
Approved.
Don Sagliano. Kathy Bauer.
Approved. Okay, next we have the proposed 2023 budget for the LDC.
Okay.
Sarah?
So going down the year-end estimate, the admin fees is based on income from the Marist and culinary refinancing, and then also a Vassar termination of their bond for the Science Center, and then what they were turning that into was conventional financing.
Okay.
So those are the fees for that. No additional bonds are expected to close in 2022. And that admin fee is that one bond, which was Marist, we received $1,000 for. The culinary was a project that we saw at the in 2021. I don't remember what year, in 2021. And so it was the second portion of that bond that closed.
Okay.
So that's why the admin fee.
The fee was paid in 2021.
Well, no, so the application fee was paid in
That's what I meant.
20, yes.
Okay.
So, okay. Compliance fee is based on two projects that are subject to compliance fee. The compliance fee for the LDC is lower than the compliance fee for the IDA. That's why that figure is 1,000 versus a higher number. 651 is a combination of both the regular county contract and then the county contract using the American Relief Plan Act funds. So that's 651. 450 of that is our regular contract. 200,000 is the ARPA contract. DCIDA is the administrative professional fee contract. Private sector is revenue from sponsorship revenue from our events. Workforce Investment Board, WIB, is the rent that they pay us. The rent is slightly lower than projected because we had some staff changes, WIB had some staff changes, so we took advantage of that and rearranged the office a little bit so that it just flowed better. So, because we had different staff sitting in random places and now we're more clustered together. So as a result, their occupant, the space, physical space they occupy is a little bit less because they're taking smaller cubicles. So that's why it's a little less. And then interest is just higher for the same reason, interest rates being a little bit higher. So we expect to end 2022 with higher than projected interest income. In terms of expenditures, we expect to be pretty much on budget of what we had projected out last year. There's nothing, I think, unusual in
The events jump out at me.
yes. So we are expecting a little bit more expenditures on our income because it was an error on my end. We did 3 events. Well, it wasn't really an error because at the time, the BAs were at the end of October and we decided to make it virtual. And then we had booked the speaker. And so we decided to do a special event in the spring of this year, May, where we featured the speaker.
Right.
So that was 3 events versus 2 events that we had projected. So the cost of doing 3 events this year versus as opposed to the 2 events projected, so that's cost.
And the sponsorship money wasn't split between the
Offset.
2 years.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but we've made up that increased expenditure by kind of shaving off a little bit of some of the expenses.
Okay.
So,
And then, I don't know if you or Jane wants to get into the rent and the new, accounting procedure that has to go in place.
Right,
Want to
we're,
discuss that?
with the Gatsby 87, it's now interest expense along with amortization instead of the cash outlay for rent. So, once it's all calculated out, we're going to have on the balance sheet, a right of use. So it's rather complicated. We're still waiting for the actual rate the implicit rate that Guardian charges us, but they're trying to find out what that is. So with that.
What is that,
said,
Gatsby? What is it?
The Gatsby 87.
87.
With that said, we're working with the auditors in regard to get the balances, and there's a software product that we're using. So the upfront, it's going to be more expense at the beginning, and then it will, as any depreciation or anything, it starts to, the interest rate will start going down. So it'll be interest expense and amortization instead of rent expense. So we'll have
But
to
they're
break
still
that out.
expenses, right? So the net,
It's not, we're not booking, as an expense, we're not booking the cash.
It's not an
We're-
outlay to
we-
us. It's more like depreciation.
Right,
If you might
it's
think of it that way.
Non-cash?
It's non-cash.
It's a non-cash type. But and it's going to be increasing the expense at the beginning, the interest expense.
Yeah.
Will be, because they're going to book the present value. It's complicated calculation.
Okay.
But by the time, before the end of the year, the auditors will go through and approve they'll approve the journal entry that's spit out by this software.
Yeah.
And that's how on our actual audits, the auditors will use whatever information
Right.
that calculation spits out.
They were the ones that recommended this
Okay.
Trulian software. And then what I did was I put in the contract from Guardian, and that's how they calculate it. And it goes out, because you have an option to renew for 5 years, it goes out to 2031, the calculation.
We don't need anything from Guardian as to what their loan expenses are or amortization schedule or anything like that?
We're just need from them the implicit rate that they use.
Okay.
And that's what is, we're still waiting on. So what I did was I took, I think it was the 5% at that time. You had given us 6% or
What
the,
were current interest rates
Yeah.
were, yes. But that has changed since. because-
so, and they haven't decided though whether it's going to be effective, the interest rate that was effective at 1/1/2022 or year end.
Okay.
So that's, so it's a guess, right?
Guesstimate.
A guesstimate.
All right.
just the other thing I want to bring up is line 23 phone. That expense is just slightly higher than projected because we had new employees come on and we just had to reprogram the phone, and we had some issues of reprogramming all the spaces.
The names, everything.
Names, everything.
Okay.
So that's why it's a little bit higher. And then also too is trade show and travel. We are attending more trade shows and travel, so you'll see that expenses a little bit,
Is that number getting back to pre-pandemic levels?
It's
I don't remember what it was.
Yes, so
I think it
pre-pandemic,
was 25 back then, right?
yes, yeah, so pre-pandemic levels is what I have projected for 2023.
Great.
And then the professional service contracts went down because the accelerator program.
So we're still doing the accelerator program, but it's actually embedded in our marketing.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's that say in the bottom right?
Oh, it's that we're being recorded.
No, it doesn't have the number of people.
Oh.
You used to, that's fine, I just thought it was a new message popping up.
Okay.
There's 4 people.
So any other questions or highlights for 2022?
The only other thing, the payroll tax, if you notice, it's, the salary is spot on, but the payroll is a little, because the new employees, we had to incur the FUTA and the SUTA again. Usually it's.
Oh, twice in 1 year?
Yeah,
From
well,
the original and the new.
The
Right.
first 2 employees that
Right.
left, we got hit with the
Right.
FUTA and SUTA. And then when the new ones came on,
Right.
again, we
Yep.
had to,
Yep,
so that was the only thing that kind of skewed that.
gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Any questions? Okay, all right.
Pretty standard.
All right, so moving on to the 2023 budgeted. So the income, the administrative fees is actually based on one project for the LDC bonds. We have no projects in the queue, nor do, but we do expect, because of the economy, that the likelihood that the IDA or the LDC will be doing a bond project in 23 is.
There's also a likelihood we could do no bond project.
Yes,
right.
And so that number could be zero?
Zero.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's possible, yeah.
It is
Yeah.
possible. So, yeah, so that's important to note, is that this is just a projection, so that, but it could be zero.
Could be zero.
So the assumption is one bond project, so there's a application fee of $1,000. And then with Marist being closed in 2022, our compliance fee increases to $1,500. We will have completed our ARPA funding, so we go back down to our $450,000. The county has not approved their budget yet, but that is the request that we have put in for the budget. And we haven't been told otherwise that that number would change, so I've put that $450,000 in there. The IDA professional contracts has stayed the same. Private sector, we have stayed the same. Despite more local events coming back in person, the general trend is they're not seeing the same attendance that they saw, in years past. So as a result, I've kept the income rate from that the same as last year.
And that's 2 events?
So that's two, so actually, this is just based on one event.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
the
based
other
on the
was
one
70
thing?
was,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one event. So that that would be our annual.
Business Excellence
Yeah.
Awards. We did, so this year we did the Accelerate Hudson Valley event. And we actually got a lot of really positive comments about the event and people asking us when we're gonna do the event again, because they really enjoyed it. So we are looking at possibly holding that again next year. We're just trying to figure out if we have the bandwidth to do that. So, and if we do it, we'll probably partner again with Upstate Capital. But yeah, so the good news is that the event was a success and people really enjoyed it. Bad news is we may. But again, we kept it conservative at that 70,000. With, again, the rent is going to be lower because they're taking less space. It was higher in 2022 because we changed the space like mid-year, so.
It's so insignificant. I mean, it's such a small number.
Yeah. So that, and then interest, we've kept it conservative at 10,000 because again, we'll be going into our fund balance and we just didn't think interest would be there. So, as expenditures, again, fairly standard, in terms of expenditures. We did increase some of our costs, such as computer consulting, dues and subs, thinking that we'll have an increase in that. The events that we produce, the expenditures is lower because we're not doing as many events. We're just doing that one event, so that's down to 50,000. Our other,
The marketing is significantly down.
so the marketing is down because of our income is down. So because I wanted
The
to,
200,000 that were,
that the 200,000,
The county.
the county, or the 200,000.
that we're not getting, that was the prior year's CARES Act or?
Yeah, that we're
And
not
that went,
getting,
that
yes.
passed through basically in
That's
March.
So we gotta trim up,
Okay.
we gotta trim things.
Yeah, and we have to trim things because
Right.
we may or may not have a bond. So yeah, so that, I lowered that, for that. The payroll,
Yeah.
it just reflects, is higher because, the two new employees that we hired at a higher rate than the employees that, had left. That was just market forces, people, in order to hire what we want, we just had to increase the pay rate for that.
But Sarah, this also, is this number being significantly increased account for the fringe benefits we were
That's in the-
discussing?
So that's the
That's
next,
further lines down.
that's 2 lines down.
Which?
22.
Payroll,
22.
22.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
So,
Right.
and then also line 20 also includes a 3% cost of living increase for all employees. So that's all, that also counts for the, increase. Payroll tax is just the, policy. And then the payroll fringe is that increase, that's based on the assumption of the recommendation of increasing it to 24,000.
So it was 6,000 for 6 employees, possibly the bucket?
Yeah,
Yep. And yep, that has to get approved by the
Right.
board.
Yes.
But we're gonna put it in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, to be.
just to, so that
So
you can
that-
see that, how it's reflected in the budget. So, if the board chooses to not increase it by that amount, of course, that would be lower, but.
Yep.
Yep.
So. And then the next item of significance is rent.
Line
And we're
28.
comfortable with that? I mean,
28.
that's like a 12% drop from this year, from
Well,
the,
that's the way.
I know.
That's the way.
But that's a lot of front end coming down in 1 year though, you know what I'm saying?
Though, that's how it calculated.
Okay.
I'm not, and again, it was, the software that I just plugged everything in. It may change depending on the rate.
I just want to be more conservative. We should raise that, that's all.
I
I mean,
trying to think whether it was the 5% that I had in there at the time.
5%,
5% as the implicit rate, which I'm hoping that they're going to use 4.
so that could be, okay.
Rates are up over 6 right now.
Right, but I don't know if it's at the time of the signing of the agreement or the beginning of when we're implementing
Yeah.
the GASB 87 is 1/1/2022. So that's all up in the air until discussed with
Will
the
we have a
auditors.
better handle on that number in the next couple weeks before the board meeting?
I'll hope for that. I'll contact Guardian again to see, but there's other people asking Guardian for the same rate.
But this GASB 87, so is our lease up? No.
No.
But I don't understand how, if we have a lease with a set amount, how this is all going into haywire with GASB 87. I know it's an accounting,
It is because our expense is reflected as now amortization and interest expense. They don't care about the cash outlay and they want.
no, but we have to care about the cash outlay.
Right,
Cash
but it-
outlay.
Right, but which will be only $89,000 or
That's what I'm trying to, so,
the cash outlay is 89,000.
okay.
But as maybe 3 years from now, you're going to see that we're only going to have 80,000 in expense for,
Even, then how do we?
it'll
account
just
for
go
the-
down because the interest expense will be, they're booking it as they take the present value
Right.
of the amount
This gets a big asterisk. I don't like it.
2031.
So,
So our auditors are on top of this, right? 'Cause-
Yes, they were the
Yes.
ones that
Okay.
gave me, yeah.
Yes, I'm not too comfortable, but I have to defer
I
to them
did.
because this isn't everyday life.
And I sent an email to Shannon and I even spoke to her on the
Yeah,
phone
it's-
in regard to it saying, I know, to me, it seems ridiculous.
89,000 is what we have to pay to Guardian,
Right,
That's what that.
but it's going to be portrayed in different lines between
amortization.
and interest.
And interest.
Okay.
And we're also going to have a large amount on our balance sheet for right to use and rent
And
liability
this is all because of the rules
rules
Rules changed.
that we have to,
that went into effect 1/1/2022. Well, anybody starting, it was.
and this is municipality rules for
And this
rent?
is also is in we're doing it as a GASB, but the FASB already did this. So other companies have already done this.
Okay.
I know.
No, I'm just,
Frustrating.
Yeah,
it's just
It's
different.
supposed to be for investors looking at your balance sheet, knowing that you're committed to this amount of money coming out of your pocket. And that amount 5 years from now is this value.
Okay.
which may be less than the actual.
In 5 years, we're going to be outlaying more cash than is on our.
And then how do we account for the cash we're outlaying on a cash flow statement?
It's our liability and our
I don't- it's-
right of use will be coming down. Yeah,
Like I said, a big asterisk. I don't like this.
No.
you're not the only.
No, I know. I understand.
We already spent a half hour on the phone trying to figure it
Yeah,
out.
all right.
Yes, and yeah, Jane
No,
and I
it's
spent
just-
hours, but like, yeah, but we're in agreement, because we're going back and forth. Do we, on our audit, do we, we reflect this, but in our actual budget, do we do the actual cash outlay?
It's true, because we
So-
don't.
I understand. Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah,
In the budget,
It's just complicating something that should be simple,
yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
period.
Right.
Okay.
And our outlay
I
is
cut a check.
89,000, but we're putting
that?
100.
I cut it.
I know.
and we were going back and
$7,362.
forth of like, do we just show the actual cash outlay in our
because
budget?
we
Because we don't
don't-
show depreciation.
Exactly, that's my
but
point. We
do
don't show
show
depreciation on
in
here.
our audit. So,
I think you should show the cash outlay, period. But I would defer to the practicing CPA or auditor.
Well, the thing is the budget is presented differently than our audited financial statements anyway,
True.
because we have depreciation.
Right.
Right, and I understand that.
On this,
Yeah,
we can, I'm
so-
fine if you wanted to do the cash,
I
the
would,
actual rent expense.
I would do actual
I would
rent
do
expense
actual
and
rent
and let our audit
And let
show
our
all
audit
this
show
smoke
the
and
other.
mirrors that the government requires.
okay.
That's what it is. That's
I
just-
mean, yeah, it's much easier.
Yes.
right. I
From
mean,
what
for
we're-
what we're doing here, I would say.
Yeah, a budget is, we want to know what goes out the door and what we're bringing in, because this could be a really rough year without a bond, because the cost of bonds and the interest rates are going to be ridiculous in 2023.
True, but at year end, when you look at your audited financial statements, you will have then the depreciation and amortization.
I would defer to our auditors and ask what the other not-for-profits or municipalities are doing in regards to FASB 87 or GASB 87. So
For a budget,
For
for a
budget.
budget presentation?
for our budget, period, whether it's, my presentation or what we're actually using, however you want
Because I mean,
to.
technically, our,
Because that's hiding $13,000 in cash. It's $13 positive for us that would come off the bottom deficit.
right, but also is you don't have your depreciation expense in there.
Right.
That is for your audited financial statements,
Right.
you need a depreciation expense.
Correct.
Yeah, I just don't know how they're depreciating the rent, but that's a whole.
It's amortizing.
Either be amortized. It's a
I know,
all right, let's just get clarification, that's all.
I
I
know.
mean,
All right, that's it. I mean,
Okay.
all right. And then.
And then the other significant change would be line item 29 and 30, which is trade shows and travel. We've reinstated what we were spending pre-COVID. And I feel strongly about that because attending those trade shows will hopefully increase our lead generation.
it's all about.
On the IDA.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
with the rough year that we're anticipating with rates going up, I think being out there and trying to capture whatever activity is going on.
Yeah.
Would be best.
Yeah, yeah, so as a result, it is resulting in a negative income statement of about 350, close to 360.
Is that one of our worst?
It's one of our worst, yes.
But as Tim says, you know, we have to expect, that's why we have our fund balance.
Yeah.
We've had some really good years.
Exactly.
We've had very low interest rates. We've had a lot of, I mean, we were having special meetings, like it seemed like every other week there for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah.
With projects coming
Yeah.
up, so.
Okay.
So, so that's, that, the next just is the 5-year. Again, the years, 24, and 2026 is a projection of, that I kept the income still low, not knowing how long the trend will be, but, the expenses are just a 3% increase, overall.
Our fund balance almost goes in half on a projection.
Yeah.
That's
and
tough.
It's very tough. And then in 2026, our fund balance basically equals our typical expenditures, if you see. So, so knowing that, some things that we are looking into is possibly, we haven't done so in the past, but, looking at applying for grants.
Right.
Possibly, if we're not seeing an increase in bonds.
I mean, almost be worthwhile to have a historical for us of the fund balance, just to look at for the last 10 years or yeah, just to see how it evolved to 2.9 for the end, 2021 year end. I'd like to see how quick, or if it went up, if it ramped up quickly, because it's quickly going down.
Yeah.
For projections, and
Yeah.
like you said, that's a guesstimate.
Yeah.
And then the last page is what we had to post.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on the budget? Would anyone like to make a motion to present this to the board at the October meeting?
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Jamie Pacone,
Approve.
Don Saziano, Kathy Bauer.
Approved. Any old business? Any new business? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.